Hi, thank you for joining us for this webinar. I'm David, one of the founders of Rehab Guru, and we're joined by my other co-founder, Simon. We're going to be talking about website development today. So if you have your own website, or if you've never created a website and you need one for your clinic, we're joined by two super guests today, Dave Allworthy and Andy Hosgood. Andy Hosgood and Dave are going to introduce themselves in a bit, but just a little bit from me. Andy has a great company called Elevate Your Clinic. Some of you may have learned about it before. Some of you may have been on some of his courses. Some of you may have been helped by Andy in the past to elevate your clinic. And Andy's going to bring a lot of that acumen in and hopefully shed a lot of light on what you might want to think about when you are creating your websites. We're also joined by Dave, who is a super website designer, and we work regularly with Dave. So it's great to bring all of that knowledge together and give you as much insight as we can as to what you should do, some of the pitfalls, some of the things to look for, some great examples that you might be able to follow. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Andy and Dave to do a little intro for of themselves, and we're going to kick off by talking about the importance of website design. What's important about website design? Now, some of it is going to engage with your values. What's important to you? What do you want people to see and know about your clinics? But also we need to think about what the website looks like and how we're going to also drum business up, how we're going to help as many people as possible. And with that in mind, if I can hand over to Andy, if you want to do a little intro and get going.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, everybody. My name, as Dave said, is Andy Hosgood, and I'm the founder of Elevate Your Clinic. I'm a chartered physio by background and physio business owner who has kind of transitioned into the business mentor consultancy space. I think one of the things that we specialize on anything is that customer experience element. So when we work with any business, we look about that patient journey and customer experience, and that's a big part of our kind of USP of our approach. So I'm looking forward to kind of sharing our pearls of wisdom on this.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, and what about you, Dave?
Sorry, Dave. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Dave Allworthy. I'm the founder of DRA Create, and I've been designing. I'm a graphic designer by trade from like 25 years ago, and I moved into web in the early noughties. And since then, I've been running my own company for the last 16, 17 years, and mainly most of my work is websites. So that's sort of the main thing I do now. And my specialty is the look and feel of sites. So front end web design and front end web development is mainly my forte, but I still focus heavily on graphic design, because the graphic design is an important part of bringing that digitally onto the web. So I'll dissect all of that a little bit later on. So from what Andy said, to me, I'm really once you know what you want from your website and you've got a brief for it, I'm the person that brings it to life and really makes it sing on the screen.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks both very much. Andy, I just want to pick up on something that you said there about this customer journey and where the website, a clinic's website is their kind of business shop window. What comments have you got around, where it sits in the patient's journey and how businesses can leverage a website to good effect?
Yeah, brilliant. I think so. For me, it depends on where you are in your business. So if for example there's two ends. I always talk around gaining new customers and retaining others, and then turning retention into raving fans. Okay, so if you've already got a business, one of the things you want from your business is to your customers to refer your friends and family. And one of the things they'll do is point them to the website. Well, go and check the website out. So it's also a good reflection of the referral. If you've got a, should we say, non-optimal, not very pretty, and probably one of the first websites that Dave built in the noughties, then the impression of that business potentially is then going to be, well, they're out of date. They're probably not up to date with the modern things. Should I really go to see them? So there's certainly an element of reputation. And I always You know, it's very rare now that you would give a business card out. You just go check us out on the website. So it is, for me, like a digital business card. So from a reputational perspective. But then again, as lots of businesses now are trying to attract new customers through the web space, through social media, and it is part of that funnel. And I know there's therapists listening to this. I'm going to use words like sales funnels and all this return on investments and all those kind of words. But unfortunately, you've got to think of it like that. And if you're doing all of your marketing through social media, if that's a big part of what you're trying to do, or you're trying to do Google ads or Facebook ads, you hope they're all going to be pointed towards your website to make an interaction. So again, it's those first impressions. And I think the scary thing with lots of businesses is first impressions are almost made before they arrive in your clinic.
Yeah.
You've got a massive opportunity to either put somebody off from your services without visiting you, or set a massive expectation of how well they're going to get their service just by when they first land on your website.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we look at like website design, like an important factor of that is it's just got to look good. It's got to be, it is your first impression, and you don't have any say in that. You might be the best kind of people person ever, but your website is already starting to influence the customer. So when we talk about things being, looking good, it's pretty, it's well put together. Dave, what do you think? What makes a good website? If we're talking about design, we've stumbled across beautiful websites on the web before, and you think this is really well put together and it leaves a good impression. But what's the nuts and bolts of good design, and what is the magic that you sprinkle on websites to be able to have good design?
Well, it's a good question. The main thing is to keep it simple. Don't try and cram too much on the page. Don't try and have everything as large as possible. People are worried that they won't sit. A main problem I've had for years, and I've still had it ever since graduating, is people want their logo as big as possible. And it's not necessary. It's just not necessary. People can see with their own eyes whether your logo is 4 centimeters or 40 centimeters. It doesn't need to be huge. But just stepping back a bit to what Andy was saying is integrity and credibility. To get those two things, it's actually quite simple. Most people already, before they've got a website, they have their business up and running. They've got some sort of a logo. They've got their clinic going on, and they're doing their thing. But all we really need is to make sure to hand what they've got over to the designer like myself, what they've already got. So logo, some colors. They might not even know what the fonts are that they've used on their letterheads and stuff. All right, it's my job to make sure that all of that is the same as when you turn up at the clinic, like Andy said, when you turn up at the clinic, it looks the same as the website and vice versa. So right down to a business card, if you've got business cards, the website, all the pages on the website, the clinic, everything looks the same. That's called brand integrity. So it's quite simple. No, you don't have to be a corporate company to have brand integrity. Just keeping everything the same and everything just as simple as possible. So going back to your initial question, Simon, what makes a good website? Just spaced out, easy to read, easy to digest content. So you don't need loads on a page. I'll go a bit more into content and why it is important to have a lot of content. But when I'm talking about the design, we don't need loads of stuff crammed together on the screen. We're used to scrolling these days. We don't need lots and lots of stuff crammed together. We need space so people have room. We need air so it's easy to digest. Lots of different sections with lots of air around them. People scroll down, read something else. People scroll down, they might see a call to action, a button, contact us. So just calmly, the page, needs to create an emotion. So just calm. We don't want just loads of massive logos and lots of, buy now, come to our clinic, free this, free that. It's too much. It's too much. And straight away, it just looks incredibly amateur and it just pushes people away. So just be direct and with what you want, and just you don't need to go over the top with with that content.
I love it. So yeah, integrity and credibility. And I think there's an element of like authenticity in there as well. People generally put out a website, and if they are a one-man band operating out of their converted garage, then, say that. A lot of people will try and kind of pretend that there's something they're not. Just be authentic. And it is the quality that you deliver that really hits the message home. So we've got a website, and we've spoken a little bit about, it's got to look nice and how we've got a good design so it's easily digestible. But like the component parts of a website. So there's information on there, who you are, what you do, but it's also a pretty functional piece of your toolkit as a business. So Andy, I'm just really interested as to what you would advise clinic owners to have on their website. So they've got a contact number, a contact form. What other things can we have on our website to actually make it a really good business tool?
Yeah, and I think it's a really good question. What I would like to do is just Dave's point around creating that calm emotion when people land on a site. I just want to reiterate, we've got to accept that majority of people in healthcare, especially the therapy world, if you're in pain or injured, you are in a high emotional stress state. So if the website's going to also make you high in stress because you can't understand it, you are going to get off, aren't you? So if it actually, when you look at it, if it looks structured, looks organized, so there's an element to say that's going to reduce your stress levels going, this was easy for me to use. So therefore, it's one less thing to be stressed or worried about. So I think that's a lovely point. Does your website have a calming effect, or does it actually stress your customer out before they even press the book now button? Which again, I know in lots of marketing terms, and I know probably this is something Dave's going to touch on, but it's something easy of call to action. For me, there's two reasons why someone's going to land on your website. They've either found you, so they want to learn more about you. So there's going to be the ability to, does this person suit me? Because I think in therapy as well, and I think, Simon, your point of authenticity was lovely, because, you'd rather be disappointed with a customer look at the website and go, actually, they won't suit me and not come, rather than somebody turning up on site and actually paying the money and then going, actually, that wasn't what I wanted, because that's going to create a really bad experience for the customer and probably for you, because they're asking the wrong questions and they're in the wrong space. So I think that authenticity is a lovely thing on your website. And I think you should be proud of putting out there what kind of company you are. I've always been very, if you look at our website, it's very active on the basis being is we will get you to do rehabilitation. And if you're one of these customers that don't want to do exercise or don't come and see us, and we're really comfortable with that, because they're the type of customers that we're after. But then on the basis being, so I think there has to be some information. I think it has to be easy to navigate it, to find that information, because I think people are still curious, aren't they, about, I don't think they're really bothered, if I'm honest. I mean, a lot of the physio websites, where you went to university, what year you graduated, and all those kind of things. Personally, for me, no one's ever asked me, can I see my degree certificate? But I think it's really important that people get to understand the vibe or the emotional, what kind of person you are, to see if they're going to suit them as well. And the big obvious things is there a number? How easy is it to call? And there's a difference between having a number on and having the ability, especially if, if you look at your analytics and know that a lot of people are looking at your mobile phone. I know from our analytics, because if you've heard me before, I'm a data geek, that I know that 80% of people are searching us on a phone. So the ability to then just press the button and ring straight from a website, again, from a customer experience, from the ease of use, is really easy. Or we just have our online booking system. Yeah. So again, you can book directly from. So again, if you're trying to make an appointment on a Sunday night because that niggle isn't going away, you don't have to wait till Monday morning. You can make an appointment on a Sunday evening, and you can be in the diary for Monday for a customer. And also from a business, it means that you're not having to wake up Monday morning and have 50 voicemails of people that want to book appointments, and you've got to ring them all before 9 o'clock to get them all booked in.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, like, there's two main points for me there, is like this ability to have a website working for you in the background, almost on autopilot. Like, it is working when you're not. And the second thing that you just hinted on there before I hand over to Dave is around it being like a source of business intelligence. Like you can start to understand what's happening, who your customers are because of how they're interacting with your website. And if you're so inclined, that is a massive lead on how you're then going to grow your clinic, because you've got data to drive how you do business. So, I mean, we won't get into the weeds of analytics and website analytics and things, but we will just kind of skim over the important parts of having a website, because it's a massive steer on how to grow your business. Sorry, Dave, I interrupted you there. Do you want to crack on?
No, I was just picking up, Andy, on something you were saying about the feel of a website and the kind of person that you want to attract. And you and I have spoken about this a lot before, which relates to acquiring the right kind of person, attracting that person who's going to be motivated, who's going to turn up to appointments, who without sounding mean, is going to be able to afford to engage fully and really get the results that they want. How is it that you help people to decide what they should or shouldn't say on their website? And if someone is looking through examples, so that someone might be doing some market research and they're looking through their different websites that they like, how do you fit that with who they are? And the lead that then leads into what sort of platform you might recommend that they use. Do you then suggest to a particular person, you know what, you should just go to a web developer, or to another person, you're looking at attracting these kind of clients, you want the website to look like X, Y, and Z. I think you can have a go yourself on, Wix, GoDaddy, whatever it happens to be. Is there a process that you go and any advice that you give to people, Andy?
Yeah, the big thing for me is understanding I always start with going back to the product. And again, if we're talking about sales and what is a product in therapy, it's normally the customer journey. And it's kind of so in the therapy industry, there's so many ways to get somebody to achieve a goal. So let's talk about lower back pain. There's so many ways, and it's not for me to judge what is the best approach to treat somebody with lower back pain, but there's so many ways to get there. And that approach of how that particular clinician or that particular company endorse that pathway, that then kind of feeds into the kind of certain clients that want that. If you are somebody that doesn't want to do exercise, for example, and just wants to be, lie on a bed for half an hour of acupuncture 6 times, and that's what you want to do because you don't want to do exercise, then that's the kind of customer you want to be looking at, if that makes sense. So again, that whole journey then for me feeds in to the kind of maybe around the branding they might do, what Dave was saying, it kind of fits into a lot of things. So for me, when we're doing anything, it's coming back to looking at what's your approach to therapy, and then how does that feed into the wording of your website. Personally, for me, when it comes down to website structure, I think the best thing to do is to speak to a web developer and to have it done correctly, because I'm of this mindset. If it's just you in the business, which if you're just coming new to business and you're going to go and build a Wix site, time, effort, and energy needs to go into that. How much time, effort, and energy needs to go into that to build that site? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, and I don't know if Dave will challenge this, but it's one of those things. For me, I would rather have somebody that I know is this website's fully functional, the load speed's good, because a lot of the time when you find people doing it themselves and they're inexperienced, they might be loading a picture up with a massive file, and then you have this lovely site, but every time you try to scroll up, like Dave said, it takes 30 seconds to scroll up because it's loading an image or a video that's not been properly formatted. Simon's laughing here. You're familiar with this? So again, you are trying to help yourself and you're trying to save money, but actually you could be losing customers, because again, we live in this world of going, if it doesn't load up fast enough, we're just going to scroll to the next one and we're going to come off and go somewhere else. So for me, I think we've got to be specialists at what we're specialists at. My advice is, my job, I feel, is to kind of coach out of people and ask relevant questions so they understand what their patient journey is. And then they can go to a designer to say, right, this is what I do. This is the kind of experience that we do. How do we articulate that in imagery? How do we articulate that in flow? You know, if these are the kinds of customers that we really want to attract, if this is our absolute person that I love working with, and I think this person will love my approach, and then you bat it over to somebody who goes, yeah, I can get that. I can put that flow in an infographic, or I can design that for you. And then you can tell that story through a web page. Then for me, it's a winning combination.
I mean,
Awesome.
just rewinding a bit on what you said a couple of minutes ago, Andy, about the booking system. We're talking about what's important to have on a website. And you mentioned don't spread yourself too thin. I mean, lots of people do. But having a booking system, it's also brilliant for productivity. Exactly like you just said. You don't want to go into it's dawned. Everyone gets Sunday night blues anyway. You don't want to go into the office Monday morning, 8 o'clock, 25 messages. You're like, oh, whereas if you've got your booking system, your productivity, even if it's half the phone calls and half on the computer, brilliant. And it's the same as what you were just saying then about being a clinician, running a clinic, being a physio, being an acupuncturist. And then now you'll get everyone I know, my wife's in the medical industry, and I know she barely has time to look at her emails, let alone then become a web designer and go ahead and I'm going to go and build my own website. I was like, well, when are you going to do that then? But I mean, I'm sure there are people that would still have evenings and weekends to do that and would like the challenge of doing that, like to be kept busy. So there is a market for the do-it-yourselves, but completely agree with what you're saying, Andy, about don't spread yourself too thin and, get someone else to do it. You get on with running your business.
My only caveat to that, I think, is that having worked with agencies, I've been doing this 20 odd years, and and we've taken on agencies a long time. I think the only caveat to that is sometimes when you're familiar with it, or you've played with it and you've practiced it at home, you understand the terminology and you understand the kind of which I think is partly what this is about as well, is you understand the structure, you understand the terminology. So when people are talking around analytics, or they're talking around load up speeds, and they're talking around bounce rates, and you can then understand those conversations, because I certainly know lots of companies before that have gone in and had something built with all good intention, but actually when it's not doing what they need to do, they don't understand the language. So I think sometimes having a play or understanding the principles of building it actually also helps you communicate your vision, your dream across to a designer who can then put it better into the site, so you actually get a better representation of what you want.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're like hitting upon a little bit of like market research as well there. And I think that, if we're sold on the idea of having a good website, but completely lost. I'm not a creative. I'm a clinician. And I think that one of the best tips that has been bounded around is just start Googling for other people that are doing something that, that you're doing. So, clinicians, choose a city, go through the top 20 results. What do their websites have? What do they have in common? What do you like? And then just in a notepad or something like that, just jot down what things you really like about them and why you like it. And then you'll potentially try and emulate that. So when you do go to either have a go yourself, or you reach out to a professional designer or service, then at least you've got a really good starter for 10. So, I want it like this. I like this color scheme. I like how they've got this front and center. It's got all of these trust signals up at the front to make me feel like, this is the company that I want to be putting my trust in the healthcare that they provide. So we've spoken a little bit about functionality. We've got a little bit about design. What I want to get onto next is what options are there out there? And Dave, I'm going to come to you on this. So we've got people that might want to have a go, in which case, they're feeling a little technical and they like to do things themselves. They've done the research and they've got a little bit of spare time. And then we've also got those people that would be reaching out to design, a professional service. So could you talk a little bit about that, please, on, what options people have got?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are two elements. That there's the people that want to have a go themselves, that are keen, that said save money. I dissect that a little bit more in a moment, because it might be a false economy that's saying that, but they certainly will save on money regarding design labor. But we're really looking at sites like Wix, Squarespace, GoDaddy. These are website builders, and they're builders where you sign up, and it's an all-in-one hosted solution, which means you don't need to go anywhere separate to build, to put your files. You don't need to go to a hosting company to have a server or anything. It's all done for you. You literally sign up, choose a theme, and some of these most of the web builders are free. The problem with the free web builder, and Andy, this won't look professional at all. You will have an advert on there, and you've got to stay away from that. So really, I think they all start around £6 to £8 a month for a web builder, where you can go in, and it's like using Microsoft Word. So you can go in, you type where you want your text, you add in an image, and it takes you through it. It's drag and drop. It's really simple. So there is that. So those are web builders. I'll talk a little bit more about the details of those in a second. There is something else that I think, don't quote me on this, but I think 2/3 of the world's websites are built using something called WordPress. Probably most people, you don't have to be in the technical or even design world to have heard of WordPress. Most people have heard of it. And this is another solution, whereas you can do this yourself, but I was going to say the problem with WordPress, it's not a problem, but the issue with WordPress is, if you're not a designer or a developer, is you will have to do everything separate. You need to download WordPress. You then need to go and buy some hosting from a hosting company, and you can then install WordPress on the server. They usually do that for you, and then from there you then need to choose a theme, buy a theme. There's millions and millions of WordPress themes, so you can then go down the WordPress route. So it's tricky, because WordPress has drag and drop themes as well now, so it's really easy to use. So it's just really more about the knowledge and the time and the effort that you want to put into it. So
Dave, can you talk us through some of the pitfalls with that? Because a lot of our users, particularly that I speak to, they might have just graduated, they're not that busy yet, and they're sort of trying to have a go. Are there any pitfalls later down the line? Are there any pitfalls at that specific time where it will end up costing them more money, and they're better off just maybe doing something different?
I mean, yeah. I mean, basically, what happens is, I've got a list of pros and cons for using WordPress or a web builder. But basically, if you're looking at having a go yourself, the web builder route is probably the best route, like the Wix and the Squarespace. These are the two massive world players. They've got millions and millions of users. And I've seen some wonderful Wix websites, absolutely awesome. So if you've got the time to do it, it's great. It can end up costly. That's the first thing, because you're paying every single month. So £5 to £6, £7 a month. The other issues I've had is reported back from clients who've got a Wix or a Squarespace website, is they have lots of add-ons. So if you wanted to add on a booking system, which we were talking about earlier, and this is where the cost does jump. So you stick at your £5, £6 a month to get rid of the advert on there. Then if you I want a booking system, so you add in a booking system, it's an extra £9 or £10 a month. So then you're already into 150 plus a year. Okay, this is an all hosted solution, easy to use interface. So that's what's brilliant about it. But then what if you wanted to sell some stuff on there? We've got some Swiss balls or TheraBands to sell. Add in an e-commerce shop. I've looked at Squarespace. I looked at Wix recently. Their e-commerce solutions. I know Squarespace starts, I think it's over £20 a month. So then you're getting quite expensive. So they are a couple of pitfalls which I would be wary of. So
so someone might start out with good intentions and they'll get a website which, as Andy pointed out, is like their business card online. But then as soon as they want to start really using it to drive traffic and save them time, actually, they've almost gone so far down the rabbit line that they then think, oh, well, I'm not going to change and do something else. I'll just stick with it. But they then end up spending more and more money every month. And then before they know it, they look back and they think, oh, over the last 3 years, I've spent, so much money that they could have saved by going down another route.
This might be quite a good time to tell a brief story from a client of mine who came to me about 5 years ago. He was spending with a web builder. He was spending £9,000 a year, and it was because he had 10. I think he had about 10 or 12 domain names with them, and they were advising him. This is all sales, so you have to be careful. The sales team kept phoning up saying he was a tree surgeon, and he said there's another tree surgery domain just come up. You really need to buy it, and and then they were advising him to direct all these different domains to his main domain, which they were buying for him. He'd go ahead and say, yeah, okay, I'll just buy it. And the other, I just digress quickly. Domain names on web builder sites are much more expensive as well. They can range from, 20 to £50 a year. Whereas if you go and buy your domain name separately, if you were doing WordPress or coming to someone like myself, it's far cheaper. It's sometimes only a quarter of the cost. But let me go back to what I was saying. He had all these domain names which are costing a fortune, all this extra SEO analytics set up, and it was coming to £9,000 a year. And so I cut a long story short, I moved it over to myself. So this is now moving into why come to a professional designer, why come to an expert. And now I think the most he pays per year is less than £2,000. And that's for some updates that I do and some plugins and a few other bits that I update for him. And so he's with a professional designer, myself, and he's paying anywhere from £1,000 to £2,000 a year, and he was paying £9,000, not making a profit. He was getting really stressed out about it, using a web builder. So, but the key is here. That's one story. There are plenty of people out there with using Squarespace and Wix. Brilliant. They know what they're doing. But the key is to stay on top of it. Don't get caught in the sales, down the sales route, because they will. These are huge companies with lots of sales teams. They will phone you up. They will contact you. Need this. You need this. And, and a lot of the time you just need one domain, one website, and keep it simple, and just watch on the add-ons that they do have. So if you just stay vigilant with that, you'll be okay. You won't end up spending £9,000 a year. So that is just a touch on being wary of web builders. Although they do, there is a place for them. Of course, there is. There is a place for all the things that we're talking about here. But it's a matter of deciding what is going to best suit you and your life.
Cool.
One thing you mentioned on there, Dave, is really interesting, because you mentioned SEO, and a lot of our customers may have never heard of that, or they may not know what it is. And to bring Andy back in and say this is going to be more than just my online business card. Andy, what are sort of the other things that you then want to do to refine your website? So there may be some people that don't really know what and they feel a bit daunted by it. Once someone has decided to either have a go, or they do go to someone like Dave because he knows everything about SEO, he knows about all of this refinement and can do it for them and do it for them at a good price, what sort of things would they then want to consider for Google searches, paid advertising, traffic to their website? For those have a go heroes, Andy, what would you suggest for that?
Yeah, I mean, and I think the basic things is people have, if you're gonna, and it all depends what you're using it for. So let's come back. If you're, like you've said, if you're going to do Google ads and it's pointing at your website, then, and that's going to be a marketing strategy because that's where you think your customers are going to be, then certainly great. If you're looking for the organic traffic, so people just searching, I've got knee pain, and they're looking physio, knee pain, whatever, then again, it's looking for the key. What are people searching for? And that's those key kind of keywords that keyword search is. And there's actually, and Dave probably knows this better than me, and probably Simon knows a few. There's loads of free tools that you can actually find that you can go, right, what is the best search term for me? You know, and it'll tell you knee pain, Chioli or whatever. And then it's about what content can you get on your website. Now, the kind of common thing that we see is that all page should be optimized for that. So especially if you are building your own, then it's be thinking about if you're building a page, and probably Dave would be good to comment and jump in here as well if there's something you can add. But for me, if you're building your own site, it's thinking about what's the content of the page, what's the search term that people will be searching to find that page, and then how do you optimize that site? I mean, the interesting thing now is a lot of people are now turning to this ChatGPT to write content for the websites. They're actually going to an AI to actually go, what's the best way to write this content? And so you don't even have to really think. You can actually ask an AI tool to kind of write you a little bit of a conversation I was having with a web designer the other day, saying they're even using that to kind of test their own content to say, can the AI write it better than what they can? So there are lots of tools to do that. And then the other way that lots of clinics that we see do it to help improve their rankings in Google is to use SEO, like you've said, but by creating blogs. The only thing, if you are going to commit to blogs, and if you've ever go on our Summit website, you'll see that, you know, that there's an abundance. I mean, we probably write 2 or 3 a week, which I'm not expecting most people to do. But we've got a vast amount of content that we then refer to in our social media, because one of the things that we want people to do is we want to attract the right people, but we also want to be informative, because so when people make the decision to join us, there's some information there that we've validated. So instead of you having to Google, how do I treat my medial knee ligament? I want to be in that argument so that if they come across our blog, our thing, that then again, that helps us build trust and credibility, and so they're more likely to choose us because we're in that area. But again, the only downfall of that, and I think it's the common theme, you've got to be organized and consistent with that. Because if you are going to start searching for that, there's nothing worse than landing on a site and realizing the last blog was done 5 months ago or 6 months ago, because it just shows you're not on top of things. And is that reflection of your own business? And I've actually chosen to work with a company based on when they had a blog. I was looking on the blog and realized when it was the last time it was updated. And this particular company hadn't updated it for 2 years. And then I kind of say, right, well, if you've got a blog section on the website and you haven't updated for 2 years, you're obviously not on the ball. And so what does that reflect upon your business? And that's a big part of how I kind of judge things. And I always say to a business, most web designers, if you're building it yourself, will encourage you to put a blog on for SEO purposes. But actually, you've got to put the time, effort, and energy to keep that updated and keep it relevant. So I think, is it fair to say that's what Google likes? If your website isn't relevant and up to date and keeping the content going, Google will just ignore it.
I mean, if I just jump in there, Andy, basically I'm not an SEO sort of company. It's not really an ongoing thing. It's not a service I offer, but what I do offer is a basic SEO package. And basically just moving on from what you were saying, is Google loves content. It loves lots of it. lots of rich text. It loves lots of pages on your website, but also there's keys here, because Google's algorithms are so ridiculously clever that you can't just say physiotherapist in Essex 1,000 times on your homepage and you're going to get to the top when someone types that in. Those days have gone. They used to be in the late 90s. Those days have gone. So the key word for Google is honesty. So you've got to have good, honest, informative content. So Google will think there's lots of how it will read your site. It will think there's lots of information here. It's really good. It's really honest, and there's loads of it. I'm gonna rank this website higher because we think customers are going to really like it. So that's the key. So once you've got through that, and then the main point to bear in mind is Google basically rules the world when it comes to websites. So I make sure every website I build for my clients is 100% Google friendly. So that involves three things: making sure the SEO is correct on the website. We haven't got time to talk about exactly how to do that, but also linking it up to Google Analytics and linking it up to the Google Search Console, which used to be called Webmaster Tools. So you get that linked up, Google will then index your site within 24 hours and you're away. If you've got loads of content, you're away and you'll start seeing your site. And there's a fourth thing as well, and is sign up to, it's free, my business listing with Google. So get your business on there. So if someone types in physio near me or acupuncturist or clinic near me, you come up as a local business listing. That is phenomenal. Yeah.
Dave, just on that, does it help then for businesses? So if we think about the full circle, so someone's seen your website, come in, you've done a great job, and then sends you a Google review. If you're registered with those, it links it back to, because it's almost feeding back saying, actually, this customer who's linked to this website has used this service and they've given us a 5-star review. So again, it just builds that trust with Google, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So like Google reviews are really good, and any other reputable companies like Trustpilot. But so I just use Google. I have Google reviews for my business, and over the last 2 years, I've gone from 5 or 6 Google reviews to over 50. And now I know on various websites I've built for people, if you type in the industry and the location, page 1, sometimes at the top. So, and that is down to the Google reviews, the listings, and all the other things I was saying earlier, which isn't difficult to do. It's just a lot of it is just, it's not difficult. A lot of it is just time. Like, write a lot about what you're doing, your company, who you are, why it started, the services you provide. That could be a good couple of 1,000 words spread over, 8 to 10 pages. You've got yourself a website.
Yeah, certainly.
Awesome. Right, I was just going to jump in with a few sort of quick fire sort of tips and tricks from my 20 years in the web. First one is reconnaissance, and that's a bit of a military term from my past. Is everything is out there on the web to be dissected and looked into and interrogated. So look around at what other people are doing, then look at who made their website. Maybe put their website into Google Page Speed, which is, and this is something that you can do for your own website as well, pagespeed.web.dev. That is Google's insights tool to be able to see how fast something is loading. And it gives you a little bit of depth as to what's happening behind the scenes. It'll give you a mobile score and also a desktop score so that you can understand how slow your website is loading on a 3G connection on a fairly old phone. Are you losing customers from that? The next one is a SEO checker. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. There's lots of them out there. A good one is from SEMrush. So SEMRUSH.com. Find that SEO checker, put in your website, put in your competitors' websites, put in anybody's website, just to understand the inner workings of what is happening underneath the hood of that website. The next thing is looking for good designers and web developers. So there's a freelance market if I'm, not keen on doing it myself, I'm going to reach out to someone like Dave. How do I find a credible, trustworthy person like him in the hundreds of people and hundreds of agencies that there are around the UK or around the world? And I mentioned UK specifically because our audience will be primarily in the UK. There are lots of sites where you can have things done, potentially from a team offshore. Have you ever met these people? Have you ever, got them on a call to understand the type of quality that they're delivering? And so, on the point of quality, when you're doing your reconnaissance to find other people's websites and you find out who the designer was that built those, okay, get a recommendation from them. Reach out to another clinic owner and say, I love your website. You've done, really good job of it. They'll be happy to refer you to somebody that they trust. And that referral, that recommendation is absolutely massive in the web industry, because there are a lot of people taking advantage of people's lack of sort of tech savviness. So that would be my recommendations, is to, sort of do your reconnaissance, put things through webmaster tools and SEO checkers to see how you're performing and how others are performing. And that gives you all the information you need to start making sort of good decisions about how you're going to tackle your website.
I really like that idea, Simon, with regards to recommendations, because we've, all of us here will have come across people that have, had some bad luck. And we certainly have a few Rehab Guru users who maybe have been taken advantage of, or they've had a website built and they're just having tons of problems with it. And it does seem like it can be a bit of a Wild West. And so I really like that idea of finding a website that works really well. You've checked its SEO, you've checked its speed, and you think this is a great website, and then just contact them and flatter them. And, if you're not going to pop up on a clinic on the same road as them, I'm sure they would be happy to help.
Just on that though, I also think that, in the therapy space, and again, this is I don't want to prejudge, but in the therapy space, still a lot of therapists are transitioning to realize that about how to do this well, so don't always think you've got to look at, when you're doing your reconnaissance, what a lovely word, I'm going to be using that. Look at other websites that you like and you can take from that will also apply to you. So it doesn't have to be a physio or a therapist website. It doesn't even have to be one of your competitors. It's like, what websites do you like that look good and still emotionally linked to the feel of what you think? I think you can be taking parts, and I'm sure as a designer you can then work with that to turn it into what you want.
Well, the other thing as well, it's a good point, guys, because if you look at the bottom of most websites, it will usually have a credit or a link to the company or designer who did it, and just click on the link and it will take you to the site, and just contact the agency or asking for a quote or a chat on the phone. So that's really, really easy to do. You might not, there are some websites that don't have that, but most, if you're looking around, like the look at that, scroll to the bottom of the screen, there's usually a little credit, website by whoever.
And also, when you go to the website by, you go to their homepage, and they've generally got a portfolio page which has got websites from every industry. Then you click on those, and you just kind of do this kind of branch-like or like a tree-like outreach, where you just keep branching off into other directions, and that's how you do your due diligence on a company who's building things. But I just wanted to jump into something that you mentioned, Andy, about ChatGPT. And this might be something that is like really techie, but if you can get involved with this, it is a massive leg up in the tech world. So ChatGPT is it's kind of taking the world by storm, if you like, because it is artificial intelligence. And what I've done here, whilst we've just been on this webinar, is I've asked ChatGPT, which is available at chat.openai.com, is just to give me 10 business names for a physiotherapy practice in Lincolnshire. It'll reel off some stuff based on AI, and then we can tailor these if we want. So I've just picked one of these that I quite like, and I've said, give me appropriate copy for the homepage of a new physiotherapy website called The Physio Room, including tags. And here it goes. It's got welcome to the physiotherapy room, your trusted partner in physiotherapy and rehabilitation in Lincolnshire. And here it is. It's typing out in real time something that would at least give you a really good starter for 10 for your website. And I mean, as a co-founder of a company, we do marketing all the time, and I really know where my weaknesses are in the marketing side of things. And it is just coming up with decent copy. And when I say copy, I just mean the words on a website. So this is why it's taking the world by storm, is it's just giving everybody a really good leg up in how they can do things. If I stop this generating, I can then say something like, give me 5 Facebook posts for my new physio business. And again, here's 5 Facebook posts. Are you suffering from an injury? Blah, 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 blah. And this is just going to really, really help you out if you're sort of time poor. But again, it is generated by AI. So you've got to take that with a pinch of salt, make sure that you read everything thoroughly, but it is a huge help.
That's a great idea. And I was just thinking that, we've given some ideas of how people can look for good examples and reach out to designers like you, Dave. And I wondered, Dave, Andy, are you happy for people to contact you following this webinar if they sort of think, oh, I'm wanting to grow my clinic, or I'm just starting a clinic and I want to do it right from the word go? Andy, can they contact you at Elevate Your Clinic? Dave, can they contact you at DRA and have a conversation with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, from my
perspective, found quite easily at dracreate.co.uk, and or just Google DRA Create, and I come up. And yeah, absolutely, I'm happy to help, and I can cater with pretty much most budgets, and because I specialize in small businesses, and yeah, absolutely.
And certainly for me as well. I mean, the easiest way to do is find me on LinkedIn, Andy Hosgood on LinkedIn, or through my email, andy@elevateyourclinic.com. So, and again, I prefer people to reach out before doing something, and rather, it's miles easier for me to have a conversation to go, yeah, sounds good, crack on, rather than do it all. And then I get that phone call and I go, all right. And then we have to kind of suggest they redo it all. So it's a lot easier to have the pre-call rather than the post-call, if I'm honest.
Awesome. I like it. Well, Dave, Andy, thank you very much for coming on to speak to us and share your insights into websites. This has been brought about by the amount of people that we deal with in Rehab Guru support, as they're trying to embed the Rehab Guru booking portal into their website. And then they say, oh, I don't necessarily have a website. Can you signpost me in the right direction? So that's hopefully being helpful for you all listening. We will be doing some more of these type of webinars where we'll be trying to get people in the sort of digital and benefiting from everything that digital has to offer in the physio and rehab space. So keep your eyes peeled for upcoming webinars and also on our socials. And again, thank you very much, Andy and Dave.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Pleasure.